Some say it's all about 1925 and beyond. The podcast. KC 100 year celebration with Pete A. Kennedy and Marlon A. Kennedy.
Welcome. It's the 1925 and Beyond podcast again. It's your host, Pete A. Kennedy, and I am here with my co-host, Big Brother Marlon A. Kennedy. And I'm telling you, today's session is going to be what we talk about Kingston College, and you will see for yourself. But let me give you some credit. I went to Kingston College between the years of 1992 to 1995, played football. Played course 93-94, last 93, 194, and moved down to 95 Manning Cup. That's my credit. I'll turn it over to my brother, Marlon.
Hi, welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us. Thank you, Pete. I too am a KC old boy. Went to KC from 1986 to 1993. Unlike the word salad that Pete gave you, I went a more successful route of playing cricket and winning on more occasions than he did.
At least I won.
But today we're happy again to have with us another KC old boy, yes. A good friend and brother of mine, Wayne Robertson. So we're gonna start with Wayne. Wayne, usually we don't get a bio or anything because we want people to hear your story.
Not necessary.
Yes. So we want people to hear your story, Wayne. So welcome. So we're going to ask you to kick off your story by just telling us much about yourself prior to your days at Kingston College.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen, for this opportunity. Welcome. And I'd like to, also congratulate you both for this wonderful platform and program. It is also very timely as we prepare to celebrate our 100th year as a great institution in April. So kudos to you both. Yeah, well, wow, you have taken me back, way back, actually. So before Kingston College, Wayne grew up off Winard Road, Oliver Road, and then moved to Portmore. But before I take you through that journey, it actually is a somber moment for me because my father died when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
And then we moved shortly after that to Portmore. So I remember back then when I went to Winard Road, all age, at that time, that school was it still is one of the top schools.
Yes.
In the neck of that area, those neck of the woods. So, in terms of pass rates, it's, that's exceptional numbers. Each year we churn out numbers, high numbers for top schools across Kingston and St. Andrew. So
is it before you go on, Wayne? Is it the same Winward Road primary?
Primary and junior
all
high.
age turned primary. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Primary and junior high. And interestingly, back then I actually dabbled in track, and I wasn't so bad. I remember sports day I beat this guy named Bullet. But I never seemed to have matriculated after that. I just got lazy and just stuck to the books. But you took me way back because I remember living in that area. Tyrone Whittle, I don't know if you know Tyrone. Yes. Tyrone and I grew up in a similar area, and we remained close. The Whittles.
Yeah.
So Tyrone and I remember we used to stop by because we went to the same school. We were in the same class, and Everett Mitchell was also in my class, as well as Dwight Cummings at Winard Road, the great Bontax, also a cricketer.
Yeah, man.
So it was Everett Mitchell, Tyrone Whittle, Dwight Cummings, and myself in the same class, 5A, and we all passed for KC.
Dwight Cummings, them called Froggy. Froggy, then called
Frogger. Yes. Same one, man. I think the last time I checked Frogger was at Guardian. I need to double check where he's at now. I've kind of lost track of him, but I need to reconnect. But his bigger brother works at NCB. I think he's the head of HR, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, back then, we used to go by the sea down by Doncaster, they call it.
Yeah, Doncaster, yeah.
And because we weren't very far from there, and we used to, after school, we used to go down there and swim. Mommy shouldn't be hearing this, but yeah,
you haven't told her yet.
But those were just, those days were priceless, man. You're not thinking about gunman and, you know,
Yeah,
nobody
yeah.
troubling you. You were just
It's
enjoying
adventure.
the
It's
moments.
adventure. It's
Oh, man,
fun.
it was, yeah, man. So those were really good days. And I remember his father had a little place on Winard Road that sell like drinks and stuff. So Whittle, he actually died a couple years ago, almost 100. I think it was 90 plus, late
Wow.
90s. Don't remember the age. And I went to his funeral. So rest in peace, Sir Whittle. So those were really good days. And then, you know, matriculated to the great Kingston College in 1986. But even before I went to KC, you know, I would have had a very challenging moment in my life with the passing of my father and my mentor at age 8. So at that early stage, you know, I had to deal with death. And at the time, it was my mom and my two sisters. I remember, well, my younger, the two sisters. So the younger of the two sisters, she was unborn. She was in mom's womb, and
Oh, I
was
see.
born after. So it was a very challenging moment for us, with the passing of my
So she
father.
never met him.
She never met him. The
Sorry
patriarch would
about
have
that,
passed,
man.
and she bought a house in Portmore and we moved. Unfortunately, they were planning to get married, and that didn't happen because he passed. So that was a very challenging moment for me, and I had to, very early in the day, I had to learn how to deal with adversities because, you know, I was trying my best for it not to affect my schoolwork. Luckily, I was able to maintain grades, and so that I think made me stronger at such an early age, and having to be like the man of the house. I don't know how I became the man of the house at 8, but I had to play a role. I think that's why I act much older than my age, because I was thrown in the deep end from very early. So I think it helped in terms of my maturity and outlook on life in general. So we moved to Portmore, and yeah. And then in 1986, because my father would have said, you know, you have to go to KC, the great Kingston College. And going to KC was the greatest
Well,
day
before you
in
get
my
there,
life.
how did that connect to KC to say you have to go KC? Can we hear some other stories where one man
So
said
actually,
his father went to KC to pick up a book and
so
said,
actually, my
anything
father
him
did
up.
not go to KC. He did not go to KC, but all right, so he used to encourage me to go, you must go to the best boys schools in the country, and it must be KC. So even when I was picking for my schools, there was KC at George's. I think we had 2 options at that time, if you recall. And I recall picking for KC and George's in that order. And you know, there you go. I ended up at the greatest institution.
Yes, that's right.
And you know, I must tell you, I remember that youngster when he won the Money Cup, he said, "I love KC." And that is how I feel. I just love KC. Every
Yeah, we
day
feel the same way, man. We wouldn't be
you
doing
know,
this
I
if we
just
didn't feel the
rejoice.
same way. Yeah.
So I remember now going to the great institution now, and I remember we had to go to school to get, you know, your book list, and I went with mom, and you know, you were so excited. You walk around the schools. In fact, we learned that there were 2 campuses, went to both campuses and said, wow, I actually made it to the school. And then we won Manning Cup, 86, right?
Yeah, same year, our first
Charlie
time.
Smith. And Marlon would have been there as well at 86.
Yeah,
I think that's when you
86.
started.
Yeah.
And I said, look at that. Wow. You know, and to witness that at that very early age. I mean, I remember going to Sabina Park to watch a few matches. Was it Charlie Smith?
It was the Money Cup final.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Charlie. We beat
Charlie
Charlie Smith
Smith.
1-0.
Herbert Richards.
Yeah, Luke and
What
Brown
a
scored the
talent.
goal.
Luke and
Brown scored the
Brown,
winner. Yeah.
Herbert Richards.
Herbert
I
Richards
mean,
was the big baller. Yeah, man.
wow, those guys. So yeah, and then I said, wow, I'm finally here. And then for us to have won Manning Cup in my first year, just cemented the deal that, listen, this is it. This is it. So Kingston College has had such a remarkable impression on my life. I don't know if you have a follow-up question, but you want me to go straight into KC?
Yeah, man. Just tell us how was it for your time at KC? What activities you got involved with? Was there anybody there that you know would have left an impression on you as well? Whether it is a fellow student, old boy, parent, coach, administrator. Just tell us your story, your KC story.
Yeah. So as I said, I dabbled in track at Winard Road, but when I came to KC, boy, I must tell you, I felt intimidated. I said, "Oh God, how this going to work?" Because I mean, it's very competitive at KC, and I think I kind of got demotivated very early. Tried out for they had like junior champs over in Melbourne and stuff. Boy, I tell you. I remember there was a youngster named Ron Friginet. I wonder where is that? I just couldn't beat that.
Yeah, Friginet was a good runner.
I actually thought Friginet would have matriculated and gone to greater things. I just couldn't beat that guy. And I just said, you know what, man, let's focus on the books. So I went into 7 Francis and I recall I'd been seated beside Peter John Samuels. I think Peter John now lives in Florida. Miss Samuda made a great impression on the jump, you know, in first year, and so she was made a very good impression on us, not just me. Unfortunately, she passed some years ago. May her soul rest in peace. So. First form was like trying to find your way, you know, and trying to figure out, okay, how do I navigate this space? So it was kind of a feeling out process, and to sometimes you felt like you were overwhelmed because you were in this great institution and you wonder if you'll be able to measure up. But it went well. In second form, I met Mrs. Noblet Denton Prince, and I must tell you, that lady and I remain very close to this very day. In fact, I called her today for occasionally I would check up on her. And I was a form captain, I believe, in 8 Gibson, which was supposed to be, I was a form captain in her class, and she made a positive impression on me, I must tell you. And she was the form teacher in, I believe, one other time. I can't quite remember, but she taught me geography. There was also Miss Barnaby, who taught French. And then I met Miss Douglas, Helen Douglas, the great Helen Douglas.
Doggy.
I will come to her a little bit later on because I'll come to her later on because I there's something that she would have done for me that I would have to indicate here in this on this platform. So in second form, Mrs. Denton Prince would have, you know, made such a positive impression on me. And I remember, was it second form or third form that Major Cohen came to KC? I think it was one of those.
Probably
forms.
third form. I think he probably came out third form, yeah.
Maybe third form, so I'll not fast forward too much. But I was student council, form captain. I can remember being form captain for at least 3 or 4 years in different classes. I can't remember any more than that. But I was form captain for a few years, junior monitor on the Melbourne campus. I did say guidance counselor, student counselor, sorry, not guidance counselor. Student counselor. I think I actually aspired to be a guidance counselor at that early age, but didn't work out. Maybe that's why I'm saying that. So student council, the student council body, I think would have shaped my people skills. It would have also honed my leadership skills, having to interact with your peers for student-related matters. But I got lazy, didn't do cricket like Marlon and you yourself. Football.
But wait, I want to drop a little note here now, because doing this podcast with my brother, I have been learning a lot. And this is why we talk about you never stop learning, you know, in life. And just as we started, he threw out the fact of playing cricket and had all these wins more than me, you know, Mr. Wayne. But you see the
Yeah.
same way how you go track and field and were intimidated. If you hear film story with football, you know, when him show up, you know, the same thing, you know, him intimidated. I don't like him down the ball like me, you know.
Yeah.
It's not like him play no ball. You understand me? I say,
Yes.
wait, me just a pick up
Yes.
that, you know.
Yes.
So him a throw this
Really?
for me. You wasn't no ball line, no brother.
Yes.
You
Yes.
understand me? So that's why I'm
Wayne,
going to pick up cricket.
Wayne,
You
Shots
Wayne,
understand?
fired,
So,
Marlon.
Wayne,
Shots
well, I said
Wayne,
that
fired.
for the record as with the on the
Wayne,
podcast. But I come true no winning
Yes.
for me like you could have
Wayne,
made no
Wayne,
ball aside at KC. I mean
Wayne,
the
you see,
ball.
Yes.
Wayne, you
Yes.
see my dilemma. I have to live with a little brother with chat too much, you know. But go ahead, Wayne. Continue with
You would
your
never know he's a
story.
little brother, right,
Yes, man.
Marlon?
Continue with your story, Wayne.
Yes. Thank you, my brother.
Eh,
Yeah. So I think what I look forward to at Melbourne was walking with my peers to downtown. That was quite an adventure. But we were warned to from early in the day to walk in a
yeah.
group, large group preferably, because if man draw down upon you, they may be intimidated by a group. So those were fun memories. I was, I would say, a conservative student, a disciplined student. I didn't seek to break the rules of the school. I played it safe and steady. I was steady. So
They
So
didn't get
you never go,
educated.
for
you
me,
never go
it
Pearl.
was probably boring for me because I never really get trouble
You
and
never go Pearl none at all, Wayne.
All right, so I was telling somebody that some years ago that me did avoid Pearl. I think me go around there go look. But when me hear say people are get caned in for Pearl, me say me not going there.
So yeah,
And
we're gonna ask
so
the
yeah,
question again
man.
and the answer.
So I remember one year there was it was my classmate, one of my colleagues who told me that I remember who, I don't remember his name. He was at Pearl eating, and the man, them say everybody just a bolt out of Pearl. And him say, wait, I want to go on. Him say, Major that. But Major came in, he apparently came in behind him because he didn't see coming. Major said, no, man, don't choke, man. Just take your time and eat. When you finish, we'll just drive up to my office. Of course, he went cane him after that. So, yeah, so I played it safe. I played it safe.
So weird.
I just didn't want, and my mom always said, you're there, you're going to school to get an education, stay out of trouble. So I always hear mom's voice
Yeah.
ringing in my ears.
So
I played
weird.
it
We
safe.
find out that Mama Pearl's still running, right? And I
Mama
said,
Pearl still running?
that's
You
what I
serious?
heard. Yes, I hear her granddaughter or
Her
somebody take it
right.
over. So I want
She
to.
passed away as well, eh?
Yes,
Yeah,
man.
Miss Pearl
The
passed
original Mama Pearl passed away, man. So when I hear that way, and I said the next time I come to Jamaica, which is in the next couple of weeks, I want to go to Mama Pearl. So I want to make that proposal. Come, we could go to Mama.
I should come with you. I should come with you.
Yeah, man. And that means, man, we could go to Pearl, go eat some dumpling,
Well,
man.
look at it this way. Look at it this way. I can't get in trouble now.
You see it? Exactly.
Wayne,
Yes,
Yeah.
Wayne, if you ever watch Seinfeld and hear George and Kramer come up with some idea,
I remember, yes.
go down that road there with
No,
Pete.
no bother with that one.
No,
Yes. I'll give you another one. I'll give you one. In fact, you talk about Pearl. I think we have some, you remember Bigger Brown and them guys.
Yeah.
yeah.
Track and remember in fifth form, and we had the typewriting because we did business, And I remember we had type, the thing, the machine make noise and you go bam and it make that ding and the man in my pass the classroom, and the man him say, watch them, damn sissy them. Me say, bone me, man. I tell him, cut me in some blood. Because them guys are not the typewriting.
Yeah.
But as business students, you had to do
Yeah,
typewriting.
the business students did POA, POB, and typing and stuff like that. Yeah, man.
Right. So I played it safe, as I said, and I tried to keep out of trouble. But I remember distinctly in third form, and we were supposed to be the exemplary class at Melbourne, because third form supposed to be a senior year at Melbourne.
Yes, correct.
And so they looked to my class. We were supposed to be the creme de la creme. One day, there was no teacher for the 2 periods, and we decided to have a mini Olympics in the classroom. So I remember, so in my class, I had like Christian Brown, Barrington Burnett. I think Barrington Burnett was in my class. Balmore Stewart. You had Dale Rankin. You had, oh boy, those bringing back memories.
Yeah.
So on one side of the classroom, there, I think Dale said he was going to bowl googly right at the door, the passage there. And then now Money TT playing on a table over there in the corner. Man have a little bat. I don't know where they get bat from, but somebody they have one bat and him they have a little ball. Not the carpenter though. A tennis ball and him thing. Then I think somebody had a football. I don't remember what they were doing. Certainly it wasn't big enough to play a full scrimmage game. But we decided to have money to play mini Olympics inside the classroom. So apparently, Mr. Brian, you remember Mr. Brian?
Yeah.
A coordinator, heard about it and he came up. Apparently, he came up unannounced. And Dale, I think Dale was about to bowl and Dale froze with the ball in his hand. And of course, oh boy, all of us had to go downstairs and we got caning and we had to write a few hundred lines. I don't think we ever try that again. So it just goes to show that boys will be boys, whether you are exemplary or not. I think, you know, but fun memories at Melbourne, and then would have matriculated to North Street to do the business subjects. And that was something else because I didn't really like the sciences. I mean, I was able to do it, but I don't think that was my calling. I didn't like it. I didn't feel passionate about it.
Same way
I did business as well. So North Street was something else. I remember Miss Douglas, boy, that lady ruled with an iron fist. But you know, she helped so many of us by pulling us aside and, you know, giving us wise counsel, being there for us. I remember there was a drinks truck that came in the school. I don't know if Marlon remember, you or Pete. You remember that there was a drinks truck that came in and it dropped off some juice and we were all
dropped juice down at the canteen.
So apparently Miss Douglas got wind of it. This youngster, you know what? I'm not gonna call his name, but so say, can you imagine after we carry you go FDR and show you good life. Uno go run down drinks truck and I drink free drinks. Man, we didn't hear the end of it, man. She gave it to us.
Yeah.
But I think it was you know, some of us, I think there was an issue with the noise and the clutter in that area, congregation close to the canteen that caused some problems with the school, that some of the boys, you know, didn't conduct themselves well. But Miss Douglas made such a positive impression on my life when I went to North Street. And I was fortunate to have sat at the feet of the great Douglas Fortis.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
For a very short period. Yes, he taught us French for a short period before his retirement.
Oh, wow.
And I remember him, yes. And then he would reprimand and then say, oh, youngster, I'm so sorry. But you know, if you're not behaving yourself, I have to reprimand you. And he says, just be a good lad. Man, that was a gentle giant. So yeah, I had the honor of meeting, not just meeting Sir Fortis, but
being taught by,
but to sit at his feet.
Yeah.
And then now, Miss Douglas was all things to us. She was mother hen. She was counselor. She would reprimand, and so you know, had such a positive impression on my life. In fact, when I left KC, she asked me if I would come back to teach. There was a vacancy for a French teacher, and I accepted.
Nice.
So I always speak about, I always remember that. I will never forget that, because she had actually reached out to me and asked if I would be interested. Well, I didn't stay long because I'd I was applying for jobs, and I had gotten an offer at the
How
PIH.
long did you teach there?
Just 6 months, because
That's still something,
yeah,
man. Of course,
yeah,
that's still you
yeah.
gave back to the college, man.
I gave back, right,
Yeah,
right. So that, I think, was a surreal moment,
of course.
because going back to the classroom, and of course, because you're young, some of the students
Yeah, yeah,
want to engage with you more because
yep, yep,
they can
yep,
relate to you, feel like they can
yep.
relate to you. And I would sit them down and say, listen, man, you have to focus, you have to take up your book, you have to, put down the girl thing until later on, focus. I mean, yeah, so I could relate to them. And it was, I must tell you, that was priceless for me,
Of
because
course, of course.
yes, I don't think
Of course.
I would do that for free, actually.
Yeah, man. Yep.
Just because you
Understood.
have to
I
pay.
totally
Yeah,
understand.
So
I
what?
would do that for free.
So what happened after KC? What was the next step after
Right.
KC?
Yeah, so I left and went to after sixth form, in 93, left sixth form and went to University of the West Indies. I did my first degree there. I did master's after that, and then I went back to the law after that. I don't know if
So
I was a madman.
what were your courses of study for the first degree and masters?
First degree was international relations and French. I share this with you. From early in the day, I said I wanted to be a diplomat, but I also wanted to be an interpreter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where that came from. And maybe that's why I loved the foreign language so much.
Yeah.
I did French, and I kept my French. 'Cause I wanted to do diplomacy. I don't know. I was just hooked on that. But then I had a change of direction after that and realized, hey, maybe not.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then I had a master's in government, focusing on political science, international relations,
Mm-hmm.
and then law after that.
Why law?
I was at that part. I remember sitting at my desk at work one day, and I said, all right, so I need now to decide my next steps. I want to take a different pathway. I need more skills. I need to build competencies, and I need to do further studies.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, was thinking of a PhD, but at the time, I didn't think I was ready for a PhD. So I said, all right, let me challenge myself with law, because I wanted to understand the law so I can apply it day to day and with the work.
Mm-hmm.
Given the nature of the work in the public sector, it actually helps your work. So I tried that. I tell you, was a challenge, because I was working at the time, and it was challenging. I remember one day I sat down in my settee and I came home, had work the next day, and I had to study. Because, each day you have to prepare, because you have to present in the class, because you're assigned, you're assigned cases and stuff. And I remember reciting the heights of great men reached and kept. And I would have recited the KC motto a few times to push me,
Yes,
to
brave men
impel
fall, but
me
never
to
yield.
go further. I actually recited it a few times during that journey, and it actually fueled me to go further, because it was really challenging. I remember Professor Bassiani, who taught me international law, but also taught international mooting. So we were told to come and present on a case. They gave an abstract case. And when we went in the room, we saw a panel, like people from outside were brought in to assess your submissions. Mm-hmm. So I was saying, like, wow, this is serious. So we didn't know, and the people critiquing, your submission. We later found out that they were selecting students to represent the university and the Faculty of Law in mooting. So fortunately, I was selected to represent the university and the faculty at the International Criminal Court in mooting. So we went to The Hague, 3 of us on the team. It was quite an experience, I must tell you. And I remember Prof. Vassiani would have been our coach. So I said, look at this. This is a surreal moment as well, because Prof. who I revere as a Fortis and, and intellect and a mentor would have, been taking us through this journey. So that for me was very fulfilling to have Prof being there guiding us. So yeah, I mean, I didn't really want to practice law so much, but more so to gain knowledge. And be able to apply it day to day. And just for learning knowledge, gaining new knowledge and to stretch yourself intellectually. It was a real challenge because I was working, but it worked out.
Nice.
So I would have done that, and after that, and I would have done several studies, courses, short courses. So like I would do project management. I'm a certified change practitioner with ProSci Canada. I did strategic planning, policy writing, and those things. So I did quite a bit of leadership courses and just a whole lot of courses. Like every year, I think I do some sort of training.
Yeah.
So it's good to get that academic rundown, but from your employment standpoint now, because I'm sure that also played a critical role and honed you into where you are now. So what was your employment history and like where were you working, what were you doing, how long were you there, and what you learned in those few occasions?
Okay, so in 97, I left June, I left KC and went to PIOJ, Planning Institute of Jamaica. So I was in the bilateral unit dealing with projects funded by USAID, CEDRE at the time, that's a Canadian agency, DFID in UK, attached to the UK Department for International Development. That name has also changed, and CEDRE has also changed. So those names are no longer. So I would have been in that area dealing with internationally funded projects, working with the respective bodies, the local partners, whether they are ministries, departments, or agencies, or even private sector groups. So at a very early stage, I was exposed to the intricacies of project management, but also bilateral program, Jamaica's bilateral program, and assisting in crafting those programs. So I stayed there because I was on a contract and I moved to a project. So I found out while I was there that a project was coming, and it was the IDB that provided the funding for that project. And I went over to the Ministry of Local Government. It was the National Solid Waste Management Program. I was a project administrator. So it was a 5-year project. And then towards the end of the project, I said, but hold on, I have to look futuristically.
Yeah.
So, all right, so I can't stay in the project thing for too long because I have to think about pension later on and stuff. So I applied for a position within the ministry, Director of Administration and Asset Management. And when I applied, I had to sit the interview, I got through. I stayed in that post until 2004, I believe, 2002 to 2004. And then I recall Onika Miller, who was Permanent Secretary Officer of the Prime Minister some years ago, was the head of that division, strategic planning. So there was a vacancy. And I remember doing some courses in strategic planning before that, because I was, as I say, I always try to prepare myself for the next move. I remember what they did was they advertised the post internally, and I remember a few persons applied, and I was one of them that was interviewed. I kid you not, I made such a good impression that I was asked to act in the post. While I was in the post, I was senior director for strategic policy planning and reform. So I was exposed to local government reform at the time, working with Keith Miller, the guru of local government reform. And in fact, I was in a Commonwealth meeting, and they said that Keith Miller was the foremost authority on local government in the Commonwealth, and that is a Jamaican. That's Professor Errol Miller's brother. I would have sat at his feet. I would have learned so much working with people like Clive Edwards and so. In fact, Robert Hill, who's the town clerk, and I worked together for a while as well, working within on the same program. So I moved from that to the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce because I said I wanted to diversify my skills.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to just have one ministry focusing on that portfolio. But I recall when the ad was being published, when the ad came out, it said not vacant. So people thought I was a madman, say, okay, so you're going to leave and go to somewhere that is not, that's a permanent. I said, I want the experience in another area, another ministry to diversify my portfolio and experience. So I applied for the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. And I remember I applied for it and I got the position. I think the head at the time was at the trade board. And so it was not vacant. So I went, you know, I remember when I went there, they said, well, it was Permanent Secretary Reginald Budan at the time. He said, the government has been trying to get this MSME policy off the ground for many years, and I was just talk, we need to get it done. And I remember saying to the team that we have to get it done. And we were able to, it was quite a bit of work. We had to meet with the private sector, carry out extensive research, and we were able to promulgate the policy. It's now called MSME and Entrepreneurship Policy. So it's a micro, small, and medium enterprise. MSME, that's what acronym stands for. So I would have done that while I was there. And also, I didn't indicate that while I was at local government, when I went back to local government now, because it was a temporary 3 year, I believe, 3 years engagement. Went back to local government, I had to motivate myself all over again to take on a new task. So I remember when I went back, that's when I went into my strategic toolkit and I decided to do law. So it was during that period when I said, oh no, I need to figure out how I'm going to make the next step. That was about 2013. I would have made that move. So I went back to local government and I remember that time I conceptualized a very important initiative called the Ananda Alert Missing Children System. At the time, it was in response to Ananda Dean, who was brutally murdered, abducted and murdered. And, you know, it made such an impression on me because, you know, I had to relate to me to the parents and the anguish, just the harrowing experience that they would have, you know, gone through. It's really left an indelible mark on me. So I would have produced that initiative. So the public sector actually prepared me well because I was able to diversify. I was able to be a part of various projects and programs that were considered game-changing. And then after local government, as I said, I did law between 2013 and 2016. And then I applied for a position at the Office of the Cabinet. That was the Principal Director for Public Sector Modernization Program Implementation, dealing with whole of government modernization projects. So that, I think, was a game changer because it allowed me to get a panoramic view of the entire public sector and being able to influence reform projects at the Cabinet Office. We were able to work as a team to produce the online business registration system, working with the office of the Companies Office of Jamaica. Would have been able to introduce the gov.jm portal where all government services are on one portal, one repository online. Would have worked on the service excellence policy. So many game-changing projects work to improve efficiencies in government. Of course, people still cost government that there's inefficient in some areas, but efficient in others, but still a far way to go, I think. And that was, I think, a game changer because I was able to grow significantly from that experience, grow in terms of, you know, the technical side, competencies and skills, but also in terms of confidence. And then applied for a position at the Office of the Prime Minister as Chief Technical Director. And that was November of 2019. Shortly after that came COVID. And of course, the Office of the Prime Minister was like the hub, coordinating the myriad activities related to COVID, working with the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Hold on,
Yes.
Wayne.
Yes, my brother.
You ever watch Shatters and them say you're gone too far now, man? And this
Gone
is a
too
good,
far now.
this is a good gone too far.
Yes, yes.
With all the things that you've learned,
yes,
are you saying that the extended knowledge, because technical director is far-fetched from what I've heard you say, because all the others connect. You did programming, you did strategic, you did all these things, but the word technical I'm holding on to. How did you see that as something that's where I would want you probably to probably spend about
the
5
Chief
minutes
Technical Director. Yes.
yeah. So how did you get interested into that
Area?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually a very good question. So I recall when I saw the ad, I was saying, oh, but this is when I looked at all the, I would say, all the experiences that I would have gained, having regard to the skills and competencies, I felt confident enough to apply at the time to have applied for it because I felt that I did all of these certification courses and of course would have felt that I would have matriculated into the position if I did a good interview. But what's left an indelible mark was the fact that I was at the time I was also inspired to work with Audrey Sewell, who was the permanent secretary at the Office of the Prime Minister. Because one of the things I've learned over the years is that you have to find good mentors.
Yeah.
And I was motivated to work with her as well, because I benefited from her tutelage as she's now the cabinet secretary.
Nice.
So I felt confident enough, my brother, that I was able to, if I delivered well in the interview, because I think I would have paid my dues by doing all these courses, your qualifications. So the other thing is that strategically, the Office of the Prime Minister, where it's located, where it's situated, and what the role it plays in terms of the center of government is also significant in terms of being a significant career move. And so I think that also significant, but also for me, more importantly, probably, is what I felt I would be learning going there
from your mentor
in terms of diversifying, broadening and deepening my horizons.
Man.
And I think it worked out. It was during the COVID period, but
it did work out, man. It worked out. It
was significant,
yeah.
So with your current position now, Wayne,
yes.
If you care to say exactly what your current position is, what your responsibilities are, and based on similar to how you would have said that, all your previous exposure would have prepared you for this current position, because it's a very important position that you have. Not to say that the others before weren't, but just to highlight what is happening now with you.
Yes, thank you for that, Marlon. So currently I am your humble servant, a permanent secretary in the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs. I say humble because public service is such a humbling job. I tell my team members at the office that not because I'm head, that I can't get too far ahead of myself, because I and you all, we all collectively are accountable to the people of Jamaica. So it's the taxpayers who pay us. So I use that to keep my team members grounded. And just remember that we're here to provide a set of services for the people of Jamaica. That's first and foremost. So as permanent secretary, I'm responsible for the day-to-day management of the ministry. All matters relating to recruitment pass through me. Even though the team would have made a recommendation, they go through a process, I can actually veto, which is a massive responsibility and authority. And so, but I don't take it for granted. but I use it to ensure that I exercise extreme care in recruiting quality staff. So that's how I utilize it, and not to abuse the power. The ministry is the first of its kind. It's the first in the history of Jamaica that any prime minister has ever established such a ministry.
And it's the newest and the most recent.
Yeah.
It's the newest and the most recent, established in January of 2022. So we have been mandated to accelerate the pace of legislative reform in the country. So this is whole of government now. So if the legislation touches and concerns firearms, the Firearms Act, that's Ministry of National Security. That ministry has a lead role with respect to that legislation. With respect to the Offences Against the Persons Act, the Ministry of Justice has a role there. But the ministry now is responsible for working with all the ministries, working with the Cabinet Office to ensure that the government's legislation program is properly managed. So what we have done since being established, we have projectized the approach. So what we say to the ministries, define the scope of your legislative amendments. So if it's amendments to 3 provisions of a particular statute, state those amendments, include it in a submission. But before that, we ask them to do a policy paper to outline the policy. What's the policy behind the change? It's quite technical, but
yeah.
So we have tried our best to put in a new system to ensure that there's greater efficiency in respect of the legislation program. So we say that you must set up, and that is now also a new deliverable. Each ministry would have to date established a legislative team in their ministry, comprising the legal officer, the policy officer, and a senior officer at the level of the chief technical director, principal director, or senior director, with the permanent secretary of that ministry providing oversight. But we have seen improvements in the system. We have seen that there's the quality of legislation being promulgated has improved, because the chief parliamentary council, that's the head of the department that deals with the drafting of laws. I remember when we sat down with our minister and we were being briefed, she said that one of the major challenges within the public sector is that ministries, they don't draft the instructions as cogently as they should. So there are gaps in the drafting instructions. So when she gets it, or office gets it, the bill that's a draft law now that she has to put together, she has to be calling them, asking them to indicate what's the policy behind this proposed change. So we have seen improvements in that, because we have trained, we have started a training program called Legislative Policy Development. We are now introducing a course where they can go at the Management Institute for National Development to improve those skills. We are also coming very soon with a portal where all the laws will be in one space, a Jamaica Legal Information Portal. The public will also be able to interface with the portal.
Okay.
So, for example, if they feel that there's a particular law they need to, say, but this law, why is this law not updated? They can actually submit their comments and.
Yeah, that's good.
So it's we have an interface mechanism that allows us to get feedback.
Does it act like a central repository, and does it afford?
It is a central repository.
The average man
That's an
to go
excellent way of
online
putting it.
and do some research as well.
Yes, so it's a central repository. So all the laws will be there. All the laws, we go way back. And it's a whole lot of work that the team has to be doing now, because in the back end, the team has to be doing a whole lot of scanning and uploading. So we have a firm from actually Ukraine, SoftNG, Europe. They're actually very good. So they're at the point of user acceptance testing now. So we're just trying to get the kinks out before we launch it, which is very soon.
Nice.
So we are very excited about that, because that will certainly go a far way in modernizing the overall approach to managing the laws. We recognize that we need to update the laws as well. There are a lot of outdated laws on the books, We are working with the ministries to update those laws. Of course, it's, lawmaking and law reform doesn't happen overnight. It's a very detailed process.
That's correct.
So we have seen improvements. They are also increasing the monetary penalties. Some penalties on the books low as $1. Can you imagine that? There was a
$1 Jamaican.
Yeah, because it's old,
yes.
old
Yes.
law, old.
Yes.
penalty,
So I remember being at a forum and I made that point. Yes. There was that, I think, a very notorious gentleman. I'm not sure I want to call his name on here. He was fined, he was charged under a particular legislation, and this lawyer paid the fine, take out the money out of his pocket, and it was that low, minuscule.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was embarrassing. That was here before the ministry was established. I made that point at a legislative forum with the ministers in attendance and said, ladies and gentlemen, under my watch and the minister's watch, this will not continue to happen. Right. So great care must be taken in updating the monetary penalties and updating the laws in general. Not in 2025. And at the time, I remember it was last year that we had the forum. So we are working with the ministries to modernize. We have come a far way, I must tell you. But the big one is the constitutional reform program. I must tell you, one day I'll write a book about my experience with this process.
Please.
It's, setting up a ministry from scratch alone could be in a book. And the experience gained in setting up a ministry from scratch is priceless. I remember when they said the ministry was established and I was told that I was appointed permanent secretary. I looked in the directory because I was saying, but hold on now, me know this ministry not exists. And I looked around and I said, but hold on now. That means we have to build from ground zero up. So, it's a journey. Where we are now, we have our own building, 1A Fairway Avenue. We have our staff in place. It's a journey. For the constitutional reform now, the program, it's the farthest it has ever reached in Jamaica's history, and we are very proud of that. Previous administrations have only been talking about constitutional reform. This administration, through this ministry, this minister, we have now been able to table a bill in Parliament, which is now being reviewed by a joint select committee of Parliament. That's a constitutional amendment republic bill. So it's in a nutshell, it's really dealing with Jamaica becoming a republic, severing the umbilical cord with the king. By the way, my brothers, in 2025, and before that, our head of state resides in England. The king is our head of state. No, I don't know about nobody else, but I'm not proud of that. And we say we are independent. So our Governor General represents a king.
Yeah.
But our head of state lives in England. So we are trying now. The bill proposes the establishment of the office of president. And you have heard the opposition. They have said that they will boycott the process until the government come they want the government to actually agree with their position to say that the final appellate court, that should be twinned with this thrust to sever that umbilical cord and establish a republic. So they want that to be done now, not in phase 2, which is what we had planned to do. So they have said, the opposition, that the Caribbean Court of Justice should be Jamaica's final appellate court and not the Privy Council.
Privy Council.
So the government has said there's no consensus on the matter. We should strive to achieve consensus and then seek to deal with the matter in the next phase, which is phase 2. But the bill is before the House and it's being reviewed by a joint select committee. We certainly hope that it will be passed. And then now it will have to go to a referendum. If for the Senate for it to pass through the Senate, an opposition member will really have to vote for it. And that may not happen, but I don't want to preempt any process. If it doesn't pass that threshold, we'd have to go to the people, but the threshold will be higher because it will be a 3/5. It will be 3/5 of the electorate that we would have to get if we don't get the opposition in the Senate voting with the government legislators. So if an opposition member approves it in this, say, whoever say yes, I will break ranks and I vote for it, we'll only need 2/3 of the electorate when we go to the referendum. But if not, we have to get 3/5, which would make it a bit harder, but hey, we have to go through the process because it is what you call a deeply entrenched provision in the Constitution, and it requires a referendum. And by the way, many people are asking, how did Barbados do it so quickly? The difference is that Barbados Constitution doesn't have this as a deeply entrenched provision. They didn't have to go the way of a referendum. It was much easier, but we have to.
Different process.
Yeah.
So it's a very intricate process. Many late nights. We have a hardworking team. We have a visionary minister, hardworking minister, and the Constitutional Reform Committee, which provides excellent support. So it's where we are now. We have put the bill before the House, so it's out of our hands as a ministry, but we still have a role to play in ensuring that it goes through the process.
Well, Wayne, I want to use this opportunity before we wrap up to say thank you for that journey. Thank you for that little educational piece at the end as well.
Yes.
As usual, we ask our esteemed guests to just leave a few parting words. First of all, to wish KC 100, and then a few parting words for everybody out there, current student body and everybody else, and then Pete will wrap it up. Go ahead, Wayne.
Thanks, my brother. Yes, KINGSTON College will celebrate 100 years on April 16th of this year, and we should be fortunate. We should consider ourselves fortunate to be alive to witness this. We don't want to preempt the Almighty. We still have some time to go before April 16th, but we ask for His continued guidance and coverage that we'll be able to witness that moment. Which I said this to one of the committees. I chair the communications committee of the centenary planning team. And I said to the team when we met some time ago that none of us will ever be alive to celebrate the next 100 years. Let us make this the best and the biggest.
Yes.
All right. So we're in this moment. So, KINGSTON College, as I said, this institution by which all others must be measured. We have set the bar so high in 100 years. When you look at our achievements versus the others, it's chalk to cheese.
Yes.
It's incomparable. So I want to big up KINGSTON College. I want to pay homage to all the teachers who would have played their part in imparting knowledge when I was there. All the administrators, all the coaches that have toiled in the field to ensure that our teams are always prepared and always execute, whether it is quiz, whether it is football, whether it is debate. We seem to have a winning culture. I certainly hope that culture will be maintained. But the fire,
yes,
we should keep the fire burning in these youngsters. And one of the things I forgot to indicate earlier is that one of my memorable moments is on a Friday before champs, we march to the stadium.
Yes.
That for me was just, I remember the first year I was just in awe at that. And before that, we used to get our paper, I call it the hymn sheet, and we used to chant, preparing our cheers and so for champs. I mean, when you talk about igniting the fire,
yes,
and when you talk about school spirit, that for me was memorable. So, we big up KC, the greatest institution of learning and holistic development in the world. No other high school, I think, boasts our track record. I want to just say, though, that to the young men who are the youngsters, you may be in first form, you may be in second form, you may be discouraged, you may not be pulling your weight, and you need a reminder, you need a motivation that, listen, man, you're at the greatest institution, make it count. Nothing beats hard work and discipline. You have to set yourself a vision for yourself, but set that vision from very early. Goals without actions are just dreams. I learned that from very early.
I'm just saying, yeah, that's good.
I learned that very early in the day. And don't be afraid to create a vision board. You may want to actually graphically display your goals. You put it on your door, put it on your fridge door, put it on wherever. Have a vision set a vision for yourself. And don't be shy. Because if your vision doesn't frighten you, it may not be big enough. So, I just want to big up the principal, Mr. Myrie, the chairman, Michael Vassiano, and every teacher at KC today and before, those who predates us, for the work that they have done to make Kingston College the institution that it is today. Many of them are no longer with us, but we still pay homage to them. And I look forward to, as long as I have breath in my body, to continue to help KC to be the standard by which all should be measured.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you very much, Wayne. Appreciate it. Go ahead, Pete.
My pleasure.
Wow.
And I want to again, big up the Kennedy brothers for this initiative. I actually think that this will ignite the fire in the community.
Definitely.
And I look forward to the other interviews on the platform when published.
Yeah. Wow. The one thing I can tell you, I would say my permanent secretary. Am I getting the title correct? My permanent secretary.
You're a humble servant, my brother.
Yeah, man. That's fine, man. And that's fine. Because you know what? When I get it too, so I understand that humble side. And this is the part where we want to show you your flowers and recognize you for your work. So that's fine. You cannot say it, but we will say it for you just out of respect. But, man, sir, I don't believe I'm going to have cheeks by the time we get through the half of these podcasts, because they get sweeter and sweeter and sweeter, and my cheeks just keep going back and back and back. So I don't know what it's going to look like by the time we get through the middle of this. But look at this, ladies and gentlemen. A man who said the KC motto kept him through his study. The man who was in what we call the creme de la creme third form in Melbourne and played mini Olympic in his classroom. That's what we do at KC, no matter what the levels you are, because we're all, like what you said, sir, boys.
Yeah, man.
And for those of you who have had the opportunity to touch one of the greatest who have come through the school, one of the greatest, Vice Principal Dougie, out of respect, Miss Helen Douglas. Man, we can talk about that impact. And last but not least, newly elected.
Her birthday was yesterday, by the way.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
I called her.
Happy birthday, Miss Douglas.
Miss Douglas.
Happy birthday
again.
Belated.
Yes. And as a matter of fact, I think it was yesterday she sent me a friend request, and I accepted it, but I was traveling around things. Yeah, she sent me a friend request. Man, that's one of the friend requests. You know, when they don't even check mutual friends, you know, they go confirm. So I was honored for that to happen, man, because
I think they had the Helen Douglas Awards. Was it today at the school? I think I saw something in one of the chat groups. So they have an award ceremony in her honor. So
that's what I heard. I'm not sure if it was today.
Yes, man. Wow. Yes, man. I think it was today. I saw videos going around.
So, sir, I can tell you, your work, as you say, as humble as they are, which is what the Bible says, right, is where you are actually seeing the impact within the community. And I must say, I am so happy to call you one of our Fortis brothers. And I'm so happy that this crest of ours rest in your heart and in your soul and behind you and on your neck and in your cufflinks. And I can imagine your desk at work. It is just purple and white out. So again, permanent secretary.
About you too, you know.
Hey,
we're representing.
we're trying. But
I have
sir,
to
thank you
salute
very much.
Marlon, major. Yes,
And I want to tell you, he doesn't like it, and every time he's like, Pete. But
yes,
thank you,
yes.
sir. We appreciate it. And again, we cannot end any of these sessions without saying one of the greatest mottos, like you said, has ever created, the very same one that impacted your life. I know it, Governor Brother, it goes like this: Fortis,
Cadere,
Fortis,
CEDRE, non-potest.
non-Potest,
the
Brave
brave
may
may
fall,
fall,
but never
but
yield.
but
never
never
yield.
yield. What a
Fortis
motto!
family, walk good.
What a
Cheers.
motto!
We'll see you again
Yeah,
on the
man.
next episode. And I'm telling you, we
Yes.
have it right here. The permanent secretary. It's like KC all wide. Oh, lads, wrap it up. We're out.
Love
Thank
and
you.
blessings, my brothers.
Respect.